Good morning. You're listening to Senior Scene on radio station WNAV 1430. I'm Arlene Berlin, Program Director for the County Department of Aging and Disabilities. And my guest today is Amy Stapleton, who is the Manager of Bereavement Services with the Chesapeake Life Center at Hospice of the Chesapeake. Thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Can you give us a description of what Chesapeake Life Center does at Hospice?
Sure. The Chesapeake Life Center is the bereavement program of Hospice of the Chesapeake, and we provide counseling services to families of hospice patients and community members who are experiencing grief and loss.
I wonder how many people know that. Yeah, everybody knows about hospice, but I don't think they know about bereavement services. So I understand that you help people once they've experienced a loss. Can you talk about grief in general?
Sure. So grief is really a natural response to loss and transition. It's more than just an emotion. It's something that impacts us physically, mentally, socially, spiritually. It can come after a physical loss, like a death, or a loss of our ability in some way, or it could also be a loss after a transition, maybe like a divorce or a retirement, a loss of a job. We know that grief looks different for everyone, and there's no right or wrong way to grieve, and that it changes over time.
It usually takes time, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard there's something called anticipatory grief. Well, just what is anticipatory grief?
You know, Arlene, I'm really glad you asked about that because sometimes we overlook anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief is the grief that doesn't wait till there's a physical death and often kind of begins before death. It's like imagining how life will be when the death actually comes, or imagining and feeling some of the losses that accompany an illness as we're living it. Anticipatory grief has a lot of the same symptoms of grief, but it's also kind of like living in the in-between. It's a way of kind of feeling grief before the death actually happens.
So who can be affected by anticipatory grief?
All of us, everyone. It's especially common among caregivers and people who are witnessing the changing nature of an illness in a loved one, a loss of ability, and even their own life. So it can be the person experiencing the illness as well as those caring for them.
Well, what makes the anticipatory grief so challenging?
That's a really good question. I think because it's really something that can be confusing. It's like you're kind of suspended in time. You don't know what's quite going to happen, and yet you're feeling the grief of the present moment. So you're kind of in this suspended place. And on one hand, you want to be present to the loved ones in the moment, and yet you kind of don't know what's coming down the road. So it can be really confusing for people.
Yeah, you're probably very conflicted.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. So share some things that, can help with the anticipatory grief.
Things that we know that help are really reaching out, kind of moving past some of the isolation that can kind of come with, sometimes people feel guilty when they begin anticipatory grieving because they feel like, hey, maybe I'm not being grateful, or I'm missing the present moment with my loved one, or maybe I'm really longing for relief. But that doesn't mean that your love for that person is changing in any way. So things we know that help are reaching out, not being isolated, talking about your feelings, and of course, there are a lot of support groups, professional services out there to support people during this time.
So if an individual is interested in getting more information about the services, what should they do?
We would love for them to call the Chesapeake Life Center. You can call us directly at 888-501-7077, or, of course, visit us online at ChesapeakeLifeCenter.org. Connect with us on social media. Reach out. Know that there are people there to support you and that you don't have to face this process alone.
Do you usually contact someone that that has been working with you after they've lost someone?
So the way our process works is that if a person dies on hospice, any member of their family, and we define family in the biggest sense of the word, can call us for support. We offer a variety of grief groups on a monthly basis, special workshops at different times of the year. We really want to make our services available to anyone in the community who needs them.
Do you think someone being in a group helps?
I do, because it kind of normalizes their experience. They realize, hey, I'm not the only one that's thought this or felt this way before.
Yeah, and I would think that it's better to be with people experiencing something similar than your family or friends that might not be able to tune in as well.
Yeah, it helps to kind of have that distance sometimes.
One other question, where are you physically located?
We have 2 offices. One is on 90 Ritchie Highway, and then we also have a satellite location in Largo, Maryland as well. We offer groups and counseling at both locations.
Okay, it's good to know. So thanks for coming here today and telling us about the services that you offer.
Thank you so much. I appreciated your time.
This is Arlene Berlin, Program Director for the Department of Aging and Disabilities, and you've been listening to Senior Scene on radio station WNAV 1430. For more information about the department, be sure and check us out on the county website, our Facebook page, or call us 410-222-4257. We're always happy to hear from you.